Hi, and welcome to Chamber Chat via Zoom. I'm Danielle McFadden, president of the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. I'm so excited to have the Department of Children and Families with me today. I have Stacy Deans, ambassador, and Brenda Fitzgerald, family resource recruiter. How are you both?
Very good. Thank you very much for having us. We're thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So I'm going to start with Stacy and ask you first, how long you have been involved in foster care?
We've been doing foster care for about 4.5 years now.
And what made you get involved in foster care?
When I was younger, my parents did foster care. They started doing foster care when I was about 12 years old, and they did it for about 12 or 13 years. And so I think just growing up with that and seeing my parents do foster care and just really I really enjoyed helping them with that. And I think I've just always had a heart to help other people and help families and help kids. And so I think between those two things, it's just something that I've always wanted to do. And my husband was on board with it. And yeah, that's kind of what motivated us to do it, is really just to help kids and help families.
That's amazing. And I love the background that you kind of grew up in a house where your parents were foster parents. So that's amazing that you're carrying that on. How many children have you provided foster care for?
So we have our 17th and 18th kids, right? So, yep. So we have a sibling set right now of 2 kids, and we've had 16 kids before them. Most of the kids just come one at a time. We usually only have 1 kid placed with us. And some of them have stayed for just a few days, some of them just a few weeks. And then we've had a couple of kids stay quite a bit longer, closer to a year, and one little kid almost 2 years. So yeah, we've had a lot of kids, but not all of them have stayed very long.
That's amazing though. In 4.5 years, my jaw dropped when you said, wow. So can you speak to how you, your husband, and children introduce a child into your home?
Sure. So when the kids first come to our home, and of course it depends on how old they are, the babies usually just get lots of cuddles and love. When the kids are a little bit older, say over 3 or 4, we'll give them a little tour of the house, make sure they know where the bathroom is, show them where they're going to be sleeping. Sometimes we've even let the kids help her, get a bunk bed ready or whatever like that. We've let them help set up the beds and help make the beds and pick out their sheets and stuff like that. For the older kids, we usually let them choose what to have for breakfast the next day and make sure we have snacks and food that they like in the house. Make sure they know just kind of some of the boundaries of our house. Like, these are the rooms we don't usually go in other people's bedrooms without asking. So we just make sure that they know those rules, and make sure they know that house not to go in their bedroom without asking, and let them know, like what toys they can play with, and just make sure they're comfortable. And I really mostly just try to make sure they know that they're going to have everything that they need. And I try to help them feel comfortable coming to me and asking questions. And some kids are totally fine with that. And for some kids, of course, it's a lot harder.
It's so great though. I love that. I love the idea of like having them make up their beds. So what are some of the joys?
Yeah. Some of them totally love that.
And then I'm sure after a while it's like, I don't want to make my own bed. At least that's how I feel. So what are some of the joys and challenges of being a foster parent?
Let's see. I'll talk about some of the challenges first. I think doing foster care, one of the biggest challenges, especially for me, I'm like a super planner. I love to know what's going to happen in the next week, in the next month, in the next year. And you do not know that with foster kids. You don't know if they're going to stay a week or a year. Sometimes you'll have a little bit of an idea, but not always. And so I think that that's a challenging part, just be kind of not really always knowing what's going on. Sometimes a parent might be doing a really, really good job on their plan, and then they have a big slip up. And so I find that challenging. My husband, not so much. He's much more flexible than I am. And then, of course, just saying goodbye to the kids when they leave is really, really challenging. Um, and of course, some kids, especially the kids that have stayed a lot longer, we felt a lot more connected to. And so that can be really, really hard when they leave. Um, I also think just figuring out just kind of how to handle and deal with some of the behavioral issues that can sometimes come up and be a challenge, because traditional like parenting and disciplining and stuff like that doesn't usually work with kids that have come from traumatic backgrounds, and so that can be a challenge. Um, but the joys totally outweigh the challenges. I think the biggest joy to me as a foster parent is seeing kids thrive, and um, the ultimate joy and the ultimate reward is seeing kids get to go back and be with their parents after their parents have worked really, really hard to regain custody of them. That is just like the ultimate reward for me. Like, it's so special to see that happen. And I think just all like the fun parts about having kids, like their cute little silly jokes they tell you, and their little smiles, and just being able to have fun with them and stuff like that, is really, it's fun. It's good. But definitely seeing parents make progress is like the best part to me. I love being able to give parents a second chance and um, see them do well.
Oh, you're amazing. You're touching me so much. This is a story that needs to be told. So I'm so glad to have you on right now. And I'm curious, as a parent, how being a foster parent has affected your children.
Sometimes it can be hard. I'm not going to lie. But overall, my kids love that we do foster care. They love having new kids come to the house. I think the challenging part is just, especially when if it's a baby, it's usually no problem. The baby just gets lots of loves and cuddles and stuff. If it's an older child, then of course that's another personality that my kids have to kind of learn how to interact with. And of course, different houses have very different rules. Some foster kids come from houses with no rules, and so my kids have had to just be patient and learn. Just, not every family does things the same as our family, and we need to be patient and let these kids learn how things work in our house. And so I think one of the harder parts for my kids is doing that. But overall, my kids love the fact that we do foster care. They love having kids come, and even the older kids we've had, usually all of my biological kids and our foster kids get along really, really well. And especially during COVID, it's been fun. They've had like little built-in friends, so that's been really nice. But yeah, overall, it's been a really good experience for them. And of course, it is really hard when the kids leave. We've been pretty lucky with several of the kids that have left. We've been able to keep in contact with them and get updates from their parents. Or maybe babysit for the bio parents, do contact with some of their foster brothers and sisters. It doesn't always happen like that. And there's several kids that I don't, that we don't have any contact with at all. But so it can be challenging when they leave, but it's been a good experience for them so far overall.
And you talking about them having to, work with different personalities, and they're going to be like ready for the workforce. When they're ready to work, they're going to have all of those skills that so many other children don't have.
That's what I try to tell them. They don't believe me, but
they're very marketable.
Yeah.
So Brenda, let's get into kind of the nitty gritty, explaining the role of the Department of Children and Families in foster care.
Sure. The Department of Children and Families is a state agency that is charged with protecting children and making sure that they are safe and well cared for. DCF strives to keep children home by services, support, referrals. However, if a child is determined to be at imminent risk, and that's the measurement, imminent risk, if they're determined that, without intervention, harm will come, DCF does have the ability to work with the courts and remove children from the care of their parents or caretakers. If a child is removed, DCF first priority is to place children with kin. That would be uncles, aunts, grandparents. If there are no kin available, then we look for secondary kin. And a secondary kin may be a coach, a teacher, someone who's well known to the family, someone that the family likes, someone that the family trusts. If we cannot do that, then DCF strives to identify unrestricted foster care. And that's really what we're talking about today. Unrestricted foster care is when you take a child into your home that you have had no prior relationship with the child or the family, that you have no ties. When DCF does place a child in unrestricted foster care, we do really try very, very hard to keep the child in their own community, in their own school systems, if possible, so that the child doesn't lose any of their informal support systems. However, so we work very, very hard with that. I think it's important to note two things: that research does show us that if children are allowed to stay in their own communities, that the transition home, which is always our top priority, is more successful. And then the last thing, as you can clearly hear from Stacy, I think it's important to note that the foster home is the first place that children really begin to heal from the trauma that they've experienced.
So what is the role of a family resource recruiter?
Sure. So a family resource recruiter works with the ambassador, and what we do is try to educate the community about the needs of children in foster care. We work for the Greater Lowell area office, and right now we have some priorities I'd like to share with you. Our biggest priority are teens. We really need teen homes, followed by sibling groups. As Stacy has shared with you, she's doing a sibling group. What can happen, unfortunately, is when sibling groups come into care, we can't place them together. They go to different homes, and that's really, really hard on the children. Who's taking care of the baby? Is the baby getting enough food? Where is the baby? So that's really heartbreaking. Our next priority is boys over 10 years old. We really need homes for boys over 10 years old. Followed by we need homes for medically challenged children, bilingual, bicultural homes, specifically Hispanic, African, and Southeast Asian. Those are our biggest priorities. But right now, Stacy and I, the top three that we've been charged with is teen homes, sibling group homes, and homes for boys over 10 years old.
What are the various types of foster care?
Sure. So, what we're talking about is the unrestricted foster care, but there's also kinship care. And that's, again, where kids are placed with kin.
Okay. So how does a person become a foster parent, and how long does it take to become a foster parent?
That's a great question. So it typically takes 3 to 6 months, and that can vary a little bit. How it starts is that there's an application. It's called Application A. And basically it talks about who's in your household. Do you have children? What are the demographics, date of birth, social security number? Do you have pets in the home? Because we need to know if you have pets, what type of pets. We want to make sure that the pets are vaccinated. And then it also asks, do you have any DCF history as a consumer, or have you had any legal history? Having a DCF history or a legal history is not an automatic precursor to rule somebody out, but we do have to look at the incidents and what happened and gather some documentation. From there, then there's a thing called Application B. Application B is, who can we speak to on your behalf? Who are your personal references? If you work, who can we speak to at work? If you have children, who can we speak to at school? The thought process being that if you send your children to school every day and that they're ready and appropriately dressed to start the day, then the foster child will be going to school every day, appropriately dressed and ready to start the day. From there is a home visit, and right now, of course, it's virtual. And what we do is we send a person a WebEx invite, and we just walk through the home. And our goal is just to make sure that the home is safe and free of hazards. We are looking for certain things. We're looking to make sure that you have a working stove, a working refrigerator, that there's smoke detectors, carbon monoxides on every level. Do you have a pool? Do you have a hot tub? Do you have a jacuzzi in the backyard? How can we make sure that that's going to be safe for a foster child come into your home that may never have had any experiences with pools? So I think you'll find that it's very, very, very commonsensical. That I have never had anybody be like totally shocked about something. From there, the foster parent, it can be a single person or a married person or a couple of persons, that they go to MAP training. MAP training is an awesome 30-hour class. It's a deep dive into abuse and trauma and neglect. And you're going to look at child's behavior through the lens of trauma. For an example, if a child comes into your home and at supper time they eat large quantities of food to the point of making themselves sick. As a parent, you would say you don't have to do that. You can have seconds, and then later on you're going to have your dessert. And it might be frustrating, concerning, challenging. But if you look at it through the lens of trauma, the child that maybe has not had access to food, that they've gone to their cupboards and there's been no food in the cupboard, that they've gone to the refrigerator and there's been no food in the refrigerator, what they've learned a skill, if you will, that they need to eat as much food as possible when it's available because they don't know when food's available again. And so, those kind of behaviors can be addressed, obviously. From MAP training, we do fingerprinting to see if there's any legal issues throughout the country. And then we do, check the references that we have already collected, and the person becomes licensed. The Lowell area office is one of the biggest and most busy offices, unfortunately. And so I can promise you that when a family has gone through the process and become licensed, regrettably, they're probably going to get a phone call the next day or within that first week.
What are some of the supports and resources a foster parent can expect to receive?
Sure. Basically, I want people to know that they're not going to be alone, because we hear that a lot. What's going to happen? The foster parent is going to get a monthly visit from their social worker. It's called a family resource social worker, and they're basically the advocate to make sure you have everything that you need. You're also going to get a monthly visit from the social worker. The parents and the child share a social worker, so now you have two people coming into your home every month, making sure that you have everything that you need. There's also through the Greater Lowell area office support groups. There's an English one, a Spanish one. We offer trainings from a wide range of topics: ADD, helping child to sleep, trauma, a wide range. Basically, also, when a child comes into your home, they're going to get mass health, so you don't need to worry about signing them up on your health insurance program. You're also going to get a thing called a daily rate. Basically, the daily rate is a small bit of money, and it's just to help offset the cost of foster care. Being a foster parent should not be a financial hardship. So that if you want a child to get a pair of sneakers, you can use that daily rate. The money is to go directly to the child. They also get a clothing allowance. Stacy talked about some of her placements being long-term, a year or longer. And if the child's placed with you for that type of time frame, you're going to get a clothing allowance. That's approximately $250 every 4 times a year. And if it's a baby, you get WIC. The other thing I do want you to know that, we want the child to have an enriching experience, so that, if you have a child placed in your care and, you're noticing that, the little girl, she's really having some muscle tone issues or whatnot, we can get the child into ballet or whatever to help increase her self-esteem and, increase her muscle mass. So, we want the kids to do great activities, just like every other child. And so that there is funding available for that as well.
Excellent. Do you have anything you want to add, Stacy, to anything that we've spoken about?
No, I don't think so. Besides just encouraging people, don't let the financial aspect of it scare you. That's something that I hear from people a lot. It really is not a burden. DCF really provides everything that the kids need, and there's a lot of good organizations out there that will help with summer camp and dance lessons, and even things like if they want I don't know, like a basketball hoop, stuff like that. Yeah, my foster kids have everything plus a whole bunch more that they need and want.
Which is exactly what you want to do for every child, right? Give them everything
Mhm.
that they, could dream of.
Right, absolutely. I think you can tell that state will truly believe every child deserves a safe home, and I would hope that folks listening could hear the power of a foster home. I have shared with folks that, one of the reasons I got into this was that before I had done this, I had worked in kinship. That's where kids are placed with relatives and whatnot. And to make a long story short, two little boys had come back into care when I met them. And the first one was able to go to a grandparent, the older one, but there was a little one, about 18 months old, weighed about as much as a bag of chips, the cutest little thing that you've ever seen, beautiful dark eyes, dark hair, but there was nobody to step forward for this boy. It really broke my heart. And he went into unrestricted foster care. But the thing that is the silver lining in this is that he happened to be placed with a nurse. And as we were getting to know him, we were noticing things. He had really poor eye contact, really poor muscle tone, that hit the gait when he walked was funny, that he was walking on his tippy toes. And so we were all getting a little concerned that he may be on the autistic spectrum somewhere. And through her, and I truly, truly, truly need you to know that I give her all the credit. We got him involved in early intervention. So he got speech, he got OT, he got PT, and she worked really, really hard. But through her, we learned that he had a thing called tongue tie. And that's where the membrane of the roof, the bottom of your mouth connecting to your tongue, and that's how you make your speech pattern. His was all the way to the tip of his tongue, so he couldn't get his little tongue over his lips. So of course he was having trouble speaking. And as well, we learned that he was having chronic ear infections. And so he had to have tubes inserted into his ear. So again, of course his speech was affected because he couldn't hear us. But she worked very, 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 very hard with him. We got him into a great daycare where the provider was called Grammy, and it really was like going to see Grammy every day. And I can tell you honestly that that little boy is in a typically developing second grade class right now. And I do believe in my heart that without her, the trajectory of his life would have been far, far, far different. So, I really need foster parents to know that not only are they coming to help a child at a time in their life when they're most in need, they're actually changing their life. They're showing that, not every home, people are under the influence, not every home that there's domestic violence, not every home when you go to the cabinet that they're empty. That there are homes that have beds, that there are homes that have sheets on beds and that they're clean, that there are homes that, the focus is really on the children. So I just need people to know that, if they can step forward and consider this, that they're really, really changing the life of a child forever.
Thank you. I'm just really happy to be doing this because it's such an important story to tell. If
Thank you.
somebody's interested in beginning the process, how would they do so?
Sure, they can contact me. It's Brenda.Fitzgerald at mass.gov again. So Brenda.Fitzgerald at mass.gov. And I would be delighted to speak to people. A lot of people have lots of questions when they consider this, because this is truly, as Stacy said, a family situation. It really is a family decision. So people need to ask, how is this going to affect the kids? How is this going to affect our household? So, they can call me and I can answer any questions that they have and walk them through the application process.
And I think it's probably important to note too that they can call you if they're just thinking about it. It doesn't mean by calling you they're committing
Absolutely.
to anything. You're there to answer their questions.
Absolutely. The other thing that Stacy and I do need as well is community champions. Basically folks that will help spread the word. And if you have a tie to a church group, a school system, if you have a tie to a women's group or a book group, anybody that would be willing to hear this message, because these are our kids. The kids that we're talking about today are kids from Lowell, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, Dracut, Pepperell, Air, the 13 surrounding communities of the Greater Lowell area office. So these are our kids, and people really need to know that.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. And I'm going to play a video after this. So I want everybody who's tuning in to stay tuned in. But I really appreciate you both being here. Stacy, thank you for all that you're doing. Your family's amazing. And Brenda, thank you to you too. I mean, this is not easy work, but it's like you said, it's probably the most important work that anybody could be doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you and have a great day. And thank you all for tuning in. But stay tuned for the video that I'm going to be playing next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Foster laughter. Foster responsibility. Foster connections. Foster success. Foster passion. Become a foster parent because every parent makes a difference. Foster, Massachusetts.
The Coalition for a Better Acre invests in communities, developing stable neighborhoods, and building futures. Since day one, Enterprise Bank has been CBA's leading local funder because Enterprise understands commercial lending, how to streamline the process, and make it easy, serving as a trusted advisor and partner. Whatever your idea of success, Enterprise can help get you there. Enterprise Bank. Create real success. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.